Kishi is a solitary middle-aged office worker, trapped in the monotony of a dead-end desk job on a seemingly ordinary workday. He overdoes it on his go-to-energy drink, leading to his collapse and loss of consciousness. This alarming health incident becomes the wake-up call he desperately needed to make a drastic change. He decides to quit his job and leave his old life behind, relocating to the countryside to embrace a dull, simple existence as a farmer, settling in an unattractive cabin one quiet afternoon. As he's in the middle of preparing lunch, something completely unexpected occurs. He's abruptly transported to an expansive, unfamiliar forest. Feeling bewildered and uneasy, Kishi scans his surroundings, his heart racing when his eyes fall upon the skeleton of an ancient knight, its armor pierced by a sword, still lodged in its chest. Overwhelmed and alarmed, Kishi glances around, trying to process his predicament and wondering how he's ever going to get out of this bizarre situation. Then, remembering an anime he once watched, where the protagonist used the status bar in a similar scenario, he decides to try the same thing. To his amazement, a glowing status screen appears displaying all his current stats. This is the moment Kishi realizes he's in another world. Kishi quickly adapts to the system. Learning how it works, he discovers it allows him to store and retrieve items effortlessly, a feature he finds incredibly useful. Moments later, hunger strikes. The system offers him the option to buy food and water, but it comes at a price he can't afford since he's broke. Frustrated, he wonders what to do next. Kishi soon stumbles upon the system's trading feature, allowing him to exchange valuable items for supplies. However, he quickly realizes there's nothing in his immediate surroundings to offer for trade. His gaze shifts back to the knight's skeleton, and his eyes lock onto the sword lodged in its chest. With no other options, he decides to use the sword for a trade. The system accepts the weapon, granting him 2 cartons of milk and some bread in return. After satisfying his hunger, Kishi uses the leftover trade points to buy a shovel with it. He carefully buries the knight's remains, offering a prayer of gratitude for the meal and the sword that helped him survive. Next, he buys a bike and begins exploring the area. Knowing he needs to find a settlement and earn money quickly, Kishi spends the rest of the day gathering items and trades them in for food and utensils. As night falls, he prepares a curry meal, ready to finally enjoy it. When a pack of black forest foxes starts creeping toward him, fear grips him as he scrambles for a solution. Searching through his system, the only thing he can find is a box of fireworks. He throws them at the foxes, but they don't work. Panicking, he keeps looking until he discovers a slingshot. With unlimited ammo, he fires a few shots, successfully scaring off the foxes. Relieved but shaken, Kishi jumps on his bike and gets the hell out of there as fast as he can. The next morning, Kishi finds himself at the edge of the forest, mentally preparing to face whatever challenges this strange new world has in store. Determined to find a way out, he resumes exploring the area. Using his system, he decides to purchase a step ladder and a pair of binoculars. Climbing up with the ladder, he scans the horizon through the binoculars and spots the walls of a city in the distance. This sight fills him with a glimmer of hope, as he believes reaching the city might provide him with an opportunity to earn money and start figuring things out. With newfound determination, Kishi pushes his way through the dense weeds, moving as quickly as he can toward the city. Along the way, Kishi reaches a crossroad and narrowly avoids being hit by a speeding carriage. The carriage stops in front of him, belonging to a young blonde-haired merchant named Fo, who feels bad about the near accident. Noticing the heavy rain, Fo offers Kishi a ride to the city free of charge. Kishi climbs into the carriage and notices another passenger inside. Fu explains that she is just a traveling bearer and fellow traveler. As they continue their journey, Fu observes that Kishi's attire and name are unusual curious. He asks Kishi what brings him to the city of Dea. Suspecting that he's not a local, Kishi brushes off the question, simply stating that he's heading there for business purposes. Before long, they reach the city gates. Kishi lends Fu a hand, unloading boxes from the carriage, and in return, Fo hands him a small pouch as payment for the ride. Curious, Kishi opens the pouch and discovers it's filled with pepper. His expression turns serious as Fiu cautions him about openly carrying spices. Fiu explains that the Spice Syndicate holds a strict monopoly over spices, making it risky to possess them without proper connections. Despite the warning, Fo offers to buy the pepper from Kei, but Kishi insists on gifting it to him. Fo, however, refuses, stating that as a merchant he's happy to get things cheaply, but won't take anything for free. After handing Kishi 3 silver pieces in exchange for the pepper, Fo climbs back onto his carriage and continues on his way. Kishi looks at the silver coins in disbelief, realizing how much they're worth in yen. He's shocked by their value and feels a newfound sense of fortune with money in hand. His next priority is finding a place to sleep. He heads to an inn where he meets the attendant, a woman named Elia. She greets him and guides him to the service counter, explaining the available rooms and payment methods. After paying for a room, Ilya asks Kishi to write his name in the guest register. It's at this moment that he realizes he doesn't know how to read or write in this world's language. Feeling embarrassed, Kishi explains his predicament to Icelia. She listens carefully before offering a word of caution, pointing out that the Merchants Guild will never accept him as a registered merchant if he struggles with fundamental skills like reading and writing. Kishi quickly clarifies that he's fully capable of reading, writing, and even performing mathematical calculations, but he admits he cannot do so in this nation's writing system. To verify his claim, Ilya decides to test him with a math question. To her surprise, Kishi answers it effortlessly. Satisfied that he possesses the essential skills, she guides him through writing his name in the register. Afterward, Kishi asks if she can teach him how to read and write in the nation's language, offering her some candy as a reward. Excited by the offer, Ilya immediately agrees. As they talk, Kishi learns that the land he's in is the Kingdom of Kaidan, a nation governed by a hierarchical system with nobles and a king. Kishi spends most of the night with Ilya, discovering that the country's language isn't too different from his native Japanese. Lying on the bed with a faint blush, Ilya is impressed by how quickly Kishi picks it up, confidently concluding that he'll do well as a merchant. While Ilya takes a moment to rest, Kishi, feeling a bit bored, decides to sketch a portrait of her. When he shows her the drawing, she's astonished by how lifelike it appears. Remembering all the kindness Kishi has shown her so far, Ilya blushes deeply once more and gently pulls him onto the bed to thank him in her own way. Later that day, Kishi goes downstairs to the guild center, where he meets the receptionist. She hands him a handwritten registration form to fill out. He's initially confused about why it's handwritten, but then realizes they haven't developed printing technology yet. After filling out his details, he returns the form to the receptionist, who validates it. However, she informs him that the guild registration fee is 1 silver piece, roughly 50,000 yen. The thought of this makes Kishi sigh heavily, because he knows he doesn't have money like that. He asks if he can pay in installments, and the receptionist agrees, giving him a sense of relief. She then hands him his guild card, a simple metal piece with a crystal embedded at its center. The following day, Kishi heads to the market, conversing with various merchants, to gather information on the prices of goods and explore potential profitable opportunities. Later, back at the inn, he decides to improve his living space by constructing a more comfortable bed. Ilya observes him from afar, impressed by his carpentry skills and the care he puts into his work. As she continues to watch Kishi diligently working on his project, her attention is drawn to the sturdy and uniquely designed clothes spins he's using. Curious, she approaches him and asks if she could buy a few, mentioning that the thin clothes spins she typically uses tend to break easily. Her remark sparks an idea in Kishi's mind, and he begins to realize that these clothes spins might have the potential to become a profitable product. The following day, he decides to set up a stand at a local market to sell these clothes spins. The stand next to his is run by a woman named Anama. Shortly after he opens for business, Anama comes over to buy a few clothes spins from him. Kishi seems surprised by her interest, but Anama casually tells him there's no rule against stand neighbors buying from each other. With this interaction, they exchange introductions and strike up an acquaintance. Kishi's clothes spin business quickly turns into a massive success. On his very first day, he attracts a constant flow of customers. Much to his excitement, Thema shares in his joy, thanking him for the boost in foot traffic, as the crowd drawn to his stand has also brought more customers her way. Later, Kishi takes some time to review his earnings. To his amazement, he discovers he's made a profit equivalent to over 15,000 yen in just one day, a considerable sum by the local standards. This achievement solidifies his belief that selling clothes spins alone could provide him with a steady and sustainable livelihood. Just as he finishes his calculations, another customer approaches his stand, a tall blonde man with a sword on his hip, giving off the impression of someone important. The man browses the stand and eventually asks if Kishi has any knives suitable for battle. Kishi shows him a finely crafted blade which the man inspects closely. Though it's a pristine weapon, something about it doesn't feel right. It's too short for his needs. The blonde man asks if Kishi has anything larger. Kishi nods and presents him with a tall broadsword. The man is immediately impressed. Marveling at the quality and craftsmanship of the blade, he's eager to purchase it and asks for the price. Kishi quotes 1 gold piece, but the blonde man hesitates, clearly feeling the price is steep. Despite this, he finds the sword so beautiful that he can't let it go. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted when a purple-haired cat girl appears out of nowhere and licks S' face. Startled by the unexpected gesture, Kishi stumbles backward and falls to the ground, noticing his shocked reaction. The blonde man observes silently for a moment before realizing that Kishi has likely never encountered beast folk. before he calmly explains to Kishi that beings like the cat girl are a normal part of this world. Moments later, more beast folk arrive and apologize for their sister's impulsive behavior. One of them climbs onto Kishi's stand, grabs the cloth draped over it, and enthusiastically announces their intent to buy it. Kishi initially tells them the cloth isn't for sale, but reconsiders. Upon seeing an opportunity to make money, he decides to sell the cloth for 9 pieces of copper, including a discount of 1 copper piece. The beast folk, however, don't have the exact amount. Kishi assures them it's fine and calculates the change they're owed. The beast folk look at him suspiciously, unsure if they can trust his math. Just as tensions rise, the blonde man speaks up, confirming that Kishi's calculations are accurate. Satisfied, the beast folk hand over the money, take their cloth, and leave. The beast folk aren't known to be the brightest when it comes to calculations, so it makes sense. The blonde man, impressed by Kishi's honesty and ingenuity, ultimately decides to purchase the sword. After all, elsewhere in the city, a maid who purchased Kishi's clothes spins shows them to her master Prula. Intrigued, Margaret asks if they could be used in the mansion, pointing out how much easier they would make the maid's chores. Primula agrees enthusiastically, suggesting they purchase more. The following day, taking the idea further, she envisions selling the clothes spins through her own company, recognizing them as a potential gold mine. Excited by the opportunity, she rushes off to seek her father's permission to move forward with the plan. That evening, Kishi is taking a bath by the well, wishing he could have a warm bath, but those haven't been invented yet. He decides he's going to have to make one himself. Looking through the store if there's anything he could use to make the hot bath, and he happens to find a barrel for sale and intends to fill it with water and put it over a fire so he can experience a hot bath again. If his idea works out, he thinks he might be able to make some profit from it. That aside, Kishi has been benefiting a lot from his online store screen, but he has no idea how it actually works or how the packages even get to him in the first place. Honestly, it feels almost too good to be true, and Kishi can't shake the worry that it might eventually demand his soul as payment. While his success with the clothes spins has been encouraging, he finds himself pondering what new product he could develop to achieve similar results. However, no fresh ideas come to him. Frustrated, he gazes at the ceiling, his thoughts drifting to the bigger questions. For now, there's no point in dwelling on it, so Kishi decides to call it a night and get some sleep. Meanwhile, deep within the forest, a young girl named Mtanemon is on the run. Watch this next video on screen and subscribe to not miss next part.